Good morning, students. Today we will go through the remaining part of the Harappan civilization or Indus Valley civilization. So, today we will start from the origin of Harappan civilization. And regarding the origin, there were the discourses that a group of scholars used to promulgate that Harappan civilization was the contribution of Mesopotamian civilization. That means Harappan civilization had its foreign origin. But in this regard, they used to tell that it was the offshoot of Mesopotamian civilization, number one, and number two, they used to tell that the trading relation with Mesopotamian civilization had helped Harappan civilization to get out on the mature phase. So these two notions was proved baseless with further study, because first of all, the Harappan civilization was very much indigenous in nature, and between these two civilizations there were the striking differences regarding their lifestyle and everything. So if it was contributed by the Mesopotamian civilization, then such striking differences were not there, number one. Number two, regarding the trading relation, as it was told that the continuous trading relation with Mesopotamia from the early phase of Harappan civilization helped Harappan civilization to get on the mature phase. It was proved wrong because in the days of early phase of Harappan civilization, there was no trading relation with Mesopotamian civilization of Harappan civilization. So it was ultimately at the end of the day proved that Harappan civilization didn't have any foreign origin. Next one, that is indigenous origin. Some scholars used to promulgate that Harappan civilization was the contribution of Aryan civilization. Harappan civilization was founded by the Aryans. It was a popular notion regarding the indigenous origin. But again, it was proved wrong, because the Aryan lifestyle, the Aryan script, Aryan language, which we have got after the advent of Aryans in our country, in this subcontinent during 1500 BCE. So it was happened. Now, the lifestyle of Aryans and the lifestyle of the Indus Valley people was very much different in nature. The Aryan civilization was village-based civilization, and the Indus Valley civilization was urban civilization, and it was a township. Most of the sites were urban. So, who had founded the Harappan civilization? That becomes a very important question. So, it was decided through these discourses regarding the origin that the local people living in different sites of Harappan civilization had founded their own culture, their own civilization, and with long course of time, the Harappan civilization had got its mature phase. Regarding this, had got the mature phase, and an unique civilization was established in this Indus Valley, in this region of Indus Valley, vast region of Indus Valley. So next we will discuss the extension of the civilization. The next point we have the extension of civilization. Extension. Now, it was seen that Harappan civilization had taken a vast area, and it was from Sutkazandur in the west to Alamgirpur of Uttar Pradesh, and from Manda in Jammu and Kashmir region in north to the Narmada basin to the south, in south. So that was its total extension. The total area was 1.3 million square kilometers. Now, Harappan civilization among the all contemporary or the ancient civilizations, Harappan civilization was regarded the largest ever civilization so far. Now, the important cities, important sites, Harappan sites. We know about Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Beside this, Lothal, Kalibangan, Ropar, Hisar, Alamgirpur, Banwali, Dholavira, Surkodata, Sutkazendar. So these were Chanhudaro. These were the different sites which are spread through this vast region of Indus Valley, and this way Harappan civilization was formed. Okay, next one, it will come the urban planning. Harappan cities, urban planning of the Harappan cities. Now, the contemporary civilizations of Harappan civilization was to some extent urban. Just like if we study Mesopotamian civilization, the most contemporary civilization of Harappan civilization, it was fully urban civilization. Now their urban planning and the Harappan urban planning, there were the differences in between. In Mesopotamian civilization, the township was divided in three parts. One is the three segments. One is the temple tower. Next one is the official and the ruler's portion, and the rest of the portion was allotted for the city people or the town people or the common people. But in the Mesopotamian sites, Mesopotamian cities were built around the temple tower in a circular pattern. Around the temple tower in a circular pattern. But regarding the Harappan city, we have it is discovered, it is seen that Harappan city, most of the Harappan site was divided in two parts. One is the raised platform, one is the citadel, which is called citadel. We have discussed about citadel earlier in our earlier class, and the rest portion was allotted for the residing of the common people. These common people's portion had been spread from north to south, but in grid pattern. Not circular pattern, but in grid pattern. Now, what is the grid pattern? Actually, it was done in the way that Harappan city was crisscrossed by the streets or the main roads and the alleys, and in between the residential buildings used to built in. What's that? It was like that. These are the main streets. The main streets used to 34 feet, and these are the alleys. These are the alleys and these were width of 9 feet. 9 feet. So this way, Harappan cities were based on the grid pattern. That is our grid pattern. Okay, so what happens next? These are the lands, these are the portions where the different residential buildings used to come up. So that was the basic town planning, basic urban planning. Now on the raised platform in Citadel, as we know that all the official buildings, granary, all the public buildings, massive public structures, and the temples and all these significant and important buildings, ruler's palace used to build upon the raised platform, and the common man's place and the residential building, the portion of the residential building and the citadel was being separated with the brick wall, massive brick wall. And now we will talk about the residential buildings. The designing of residential buildings were almost same, but the size or shape varied to each other. How? Because all the people were not belong to the same class. There were the poor, there were the rich. The rich people, the houses of the rich people was up to 12-roomed houses. It could be second-storied buildings. But the poor people's house could be even one-roomed houses and a single-storied building. But almost all the residential place, they had their courtyard, they had their kitchens, they had their bathrooms, oil, and these things. Now, from every house, the outlet to getting out the used water was there, which was these outlets used to meet the street drains. Where the street drains, here you have the houses, and the street drains was adjacent to the house in the streets, adjacent to the house in the streets, and you have the outlets from the houses which meet at the street drains. Okay, now the houses, the streets, the drains, everything, every structure was built by was made of wood and baked or burnt brick. One interesting thing is that the the windows and the doors used to open at the alley side or the lane side. But at the street side, it seems that it was a column of deaf wall. Why such technique they had adopted? Because they wanted to free their residential places from the dust and the pollution. And dust, mainly dust. Now these houses were molded. These houses or residential places were molded at the corner of the streets and the lanes where these things were made together. Why it was happened? Because why these things were rounded? Because for the smooth movement of the carts. So that was their overall town planning. Next it comes the monumental architecture like Great Bath and Granary. We have discussed about Great Bath in our previous class. Today we will discuss the Granary. What is the granary? Granary is the stock point of the agricultural item. So what they used to produce through their agricultural activities, the crops, they used to thresh those crops and store it into the granary. Granary used to build very near to the rivers. Why? Because this granary was meant for two things. One is for feeding off the people of that town, and the surplus food which had been stored in the granary used to be transported by boat through the rivers for trading purpose. So every mature city of Harappa had their respective granary. We have discovered. We have got the granaries in Harappa, we have got it in Mohenjo-daro, we have founded it in Lothal, Kalibangan, etc. Next we will come the trading. The trading in Harappan life was the second significant economic activity. Now, the life of Harappa used to contain the numbers of occupations. Just like agriculture, the primary sector occupations, and next different artisan different artisans were there in order to build, in order to make some different items just like pottery, just like woven clothes, just like metal objects, bronze objects, just like stone objects, just like terracotta objects, seal. So there were the numbers of myriad of different items used to made by the Harappan people beside their agricultural activities. So as we know, the vast area of Harappan civilization, Harappan culture, so there were two types of trading. One is the internal trading and the other is the external trading. External trading used to be happened by two method. One is through the overseas trade, through the water, and the other is through the land, through the land route from Harappan areas to the West Asian areas, even to the Egyptian areas, Mesopotamia, etc. Anyway, come to the point. Now, internal trade is another most important thing, that between the Harappan sites, the trading used to be happened. Here, this type of trading also happened in two methods. One is through the river transport, and the other is through the land routes. Now, the items, what used to be traded? Surplus crops were there, the first item. Second, the metal objects, bronze sculptures, utensils made of bronze, stone sculptures, terracotta, beads, precious stones like lapis lazuli, silvered, gold items just like jewelry, beads, I have told, seal, terracotta items, different terracotta items, the jar, vase, these things, clothes, and different types of pottery. These things used to be traded. These things were the trading items, and which were being traded internally and externally. Now the Harappans used to trade it through barter system. Okay, so next it is almost, there were the weights and measures. They discovered weights and measures system, and regarding the weights and measures system, the basic unit was 16, and the larger weights were the multiplies of 16s like 32, 48, 64, 128, etc. And the smaller units were all fractions of 16. Transportation, in transportation system, they used to trade through the boats, ships, bullock carts, etc. Art and craft. Harappan artisans were very skillful, and they used to create entertaining. Beside the needful items, they also used to make the entertaining items like toys for the children, like the sculptures. So these things they used to make. In this regard, one of the very significant profession they had, the weaving of cloths. Next, it is pottery. Harappan pottery was regarded as the red and black ware because the surface of the pottery was glossy and shining, and it was painted with red and black, and it was geometrically designed with the black color. The large jar they used to build with a narrow neck, and on the rim of the neck the scripts were also we have found. Next, sculptures. Goldsmiths were there in art, art and craft. Goldsmiths were there. They used to make the jewelries of gold, silver, and precious stones. Next, that is sculptures. Throughout the excavation, the very profound sculptures we have got